So Kanye West and Dolla ign have finally released the first installment for Vultures and for this trilogy they're cooking up apparently. I'm sorry if it looks awkward as to, it's just like me like putting my mouth in the mic, pause. But yeah, I'm sorry if it looks kind of awkward. I just got a new microphone recently and I'm testing it out, trying to see if it actually works and stuff. But yeah, anyway, with all that stuff out of the way, it's been a while since we got in a new Kanye record. It's been Down that came out in 21, I think. Yeah, it's been almost a good 3 years since Down that came out. I still can't wrap my head around that. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. But yeah. Anyway, Kanye has been teasing this Vultures project for since last year. I think since October, November, we got a cut. We got a song from that record, the self-titled track "Vultures," featuring Bump J, Lil Durk, and obviously Ty Dolla Sign, which was personally to me a huge mess. I know a lot of people share that same sentiment. I just thought that the vision that Kanye had there wasn't really a vision. If I'm being real with you, there wasn't really a vision of that track. It was messy. It was inconsequential. It didn't have a proper structure. And it seemed that at the moment Kanye was just throwing stuff until it sticks at the wall, and nothing stuck in the wall with that song. It was a mess. It was incohesive, and it had me very worried as to what Kanye was trying to cook up. And I think that after that point of that song, it just seemed to kind of get worse with all these delays and these listening parties that got nowhere. Nobody knew which direction this album was going to come. Nobody knew if this album was going to come out or not. And then he later decided to, well, a few weeks ago actually, to call it a trilogy of sorts that's going to have 3 volumes. And this is apparent. The one that just dropped today is the first volume of this Vultures trilogy that he wants to make, and we're gonna get the next installment on April, I believe, or March, and then the other one I have no idea when. Maybe in May. I have no idea. Again, he's just very ambiguous when it comes to his release dates. And knowing Kanye, this guy never drops on time. But yeah, anyway, returning to this thing with Vultures. Aside of the rollout that we had here, I really do want to get to the record, but I want to put a huge disclaimer. Um, I These are really just my first impressions of sorts. It might seem a bit clickbaity with the title, with all Vultures album review. This is technically an album review. It's just that maybe it's not like the most, like, I guess, distinguished opinion ever. It's just kind of me after a full listen with the record in general. Kind of like sitting down here, exposing my thoughts. I did kind of jot down my thoughts in my notes and just kind of like try to, I guess, piece it together, kind of write like a little draft for this review. So I had that thing too. The reason why I'm doing this style is because I don't think that my thoughts are gonna change drastically after the next listen or next couple of listens after this record. I think they're pretty strong, and I think I give it enough time for me to really just expose myself coherently in this review. So anyway, jumping straight to the review, I gotta say, this record is a mess in terms of its structure. It has no structure really at all. It's like, again, it's just throwing stuff at the wall as he did with the self-titled track. And aside of the Vulture track that he gave us, he did give us Talking, which does feature his Kanye's daughter. I think is it Northwest? Yeah, it's North. Miss Westy, of course. I thought that was a cute little pair between them, and also JPEG Mafia has credits as a production credit in here, which is actually kind of insane to even say that. But yeah, there's also some Twitter controversy with JPEG Mafia about that. But going back to the record, uh, I think that song was apparently also another teaser song that also dropped. It was definitely better than the self-titled track of Vultures, but the issue with that song is that I don't understand. Like it's like there's so many things going on at the same time, and not in a way that's like actually fun to listen to. It's not like, for instance, since JPEG Mafia produced this song, I think he probably produced the second half because it sounds very JPEG Mafia, like with these open hats and these crunchy drums that are playing, which are kind of sidechained a bit. And they're explosive as well with these gospel choir, with this gospel choir in the background, and Ty Dolla Sign kind of getting into the mix. It's not like quirky in terms of like, hey, like there's a lot of details put in here. It's messy and chaotic, but it's very detailed. It's more of like just two songs in one, but not in a way that it's like, hey, it's planned like accordingly. It's just like throwing it just immediately after it lands. And that's the issue that I have with most of this album, with Vultures in general, is that it seems that the Kanye might have a solid idea, but then he just doesn't finish it. He leaves it halfway, or he just puts an entirely different song in that changes the vibe mostly for the worse. I think the perfect example for what I'm trying to say is the track "Beg Forgiveness." It does have a good concept attached to it. It does have a good sound as well. I mean, aside of the writing, where it's basically just, hey, despite these arguments that we have and stuff, and despite you complaining at me, you're gonna come running back to me, you're gonna beg for forgiveness and this and that, whatever. But the thing is that I think for a concept like that, which I think would actually thinking about it now, it would actually be great for one of those, like, I guess, bouncy club type songs, perhaps more of a Kanye song where it's like him saying his corny lines and stuff with his more bouncy beat, instead of just, I guess, throwing it on this very like harmonious gospel type beat in a way that slowly ascends and progresses. But for a 6 minute song, it just feels kind of like lackluster. I mean, it feels like it's edging us, pause. It feels like it's edging us to something better and grander and bigger, but it never goes beyond that point. It always just stays there. Like it's going to like progress or explode into something more grand, but it doesn't. I know that Dolla ign more at the end tries to sell it with these explosive and energetic vocals, but I think at beyond that point it's way too late. It does have some cool elements in the beat, especially those choir, culty like elements that come in more at the end, which that was a nice touch. But it's a bit awkward when you realize that, hey, why wasn't this earlier in the song? Why didn't we have like an actual great beat which halfway through the song? It just keeps on lingering for way too long. I also think they really did not do justice in terms of the sample and "Good Don't Die." There's also like a whole, I think, a Donna Summers problem here with Kanye, with Kanye and the estate for Donna Summers, which apparently the estate argues that Kanye used an AI or an interpolation without the estate of Donna Summers, consent and stuff, which in itself is pretty messed up. Aside of also the Ozzy Osbourne situation going on with Carnival, but we'll get to that soon. But yeah, I mean, despite when it comes to "Good Don't Die," he just doesn't do the sample justice. It's a very boring track. It's just him using the sample in such a boring and inspiring way that he could have just used with another sample that wasn't this. I mean, he literally, when I heard those first lines, I thought like, yo, like he's gonna snap with this, but he just didn't. It's stagnant. It doesn't move. It doesn't feel anything. It feels like it's still in its demo stage. It feels like Kanye just said, screw it, let's release this song just because why not? It's filler. However, a sample that he really did kill and he really did do very well is "Carnival," which again has the whole Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, thing going on, which Ozzy Osbourne is suing Kanye for this. I don't know if Kanye. I did hear that Kanye sampled "Hell of a Life," which is obviously his own song, but that "Hell of a Life" samples another song or it samples another Black Sabbath. So I'm not entirely sure how that lingo goes. I'm not entirely sure how that string connection goes. But again, I think that "Carnival" is an actual sample used great. That "you ride it like a carnival," and these chants that are building up as they get grander and grander. It played with Cardi in the mix, just phenomenal. I think Cardi killed this verse, and he's honestly the best part in the song. He brings back that King Vamp energy that he gave us. He's mixing that like a whole lot of red Cardi with this new Cardi he's teasing us with for instance, like "Hood by Air," like that type of like vibe is just sprinkled across here with also like rockstar energy. He gave us a whole lot of red, and that honestly just brings this song just brings this song like 100 notches up in its intensity. It's hardcore, it's bassy, it's hard as fuck. Honestly, this is very hard. You can tell that Cardi knows how to ride the beat properly because of his vocals, these grunts that he lays in sometimes as ad-libs throughout the track. Again, he brings back so much energy and enthusiasm in this song, just really makes it what it is. I also do think that Rich the Kid, which is honestly one of the features that I was least expecting. I didn't know he was going to be in his record. I think he had a solid verse too. I would have replaced him with Thugger because I think that he was trying to go with that Thugger type of voice and interpretation. But regardless, I still think he did do a solid job. As you hear me go, I don't really mention Kanye that much in terms of rapping because it's either he barely appears in some of these songs, or I just don't think his verses are just like that good at all. Like they're not that interesting. And I think that it comes up way too frequently, especially in the song "Back to Me," which has a Freddie Gibbs and I believe Quavo. Yeah, I think it's Quavo and Freddie Gibbs, right? Or am I messing up? I'm probably confusing it with another song. But I know Freddie Gibbs is in the mix there, and I think Freddie Gibbs just like out rapped every other like not only feature but any other verse in this first volume. This guy just out rapped him, and obviously Freddie Gibbs is an insanely talented rapper. We all know this. The mere fact that almost 2 years ago now, when he dropped Soul Sold separately, even though that album isn't even in his top three, the mere fact that album was still great, it proved that he was one of the best rappers of all time and stuff. But I think in this record, it just proves that hey, one feature, one amazing verse such as Freddie Gibbs can wipe off anything from even a magnificent artist like Kanye West. And that just shows how lackluster this project is overall, honestly. Uh, Freddie Gibbs went bar and bar and bar, even with these sexual innuendos that obviously the entire track was trying to, go through, which with the big booty bitches refrain that Kanye says throughout the track, which I did initially thought it was funny. It is kind of funny to listen to, but he just keeps on repeating it, and then it loses its value and its touch and sentiment. I was getting these like Life of Pablo vibes that I was kind of messing with, but it just kept on getting redundant, and he just didn't do anything that interesting after all overall until Freddie Gibbs came out at the end. He really saved this entire track and made it what it is, and it was a good verse, man. It was just bars after bars after bars. He did this editorial bar which was just insane, and the double side as bar something like that, which is also he gave like so many like sexual innuendo bars that were just honestly just insane to just think about. They were amazing bars once you just sit down and analyze it. I don't know why I'm analyzing these bars, man. It's insane. I think the hook in the song is kind of 50-50. I think Ty Dolla Sign does a good job in terms of performing it, but writing is obviously not the strong suit. Not even in the song and not in the album, of course. I know it sounds like I'm slandering this record, but I'm slandering it with a purpose. Obviously, it honestly sucks to just like say these like mean and harsh critical words of Kanye, because Kanye is obviously one of my favorite artists ever. I gave Donda an insanely positive review by the time it came out, and a lot of people were just against that record. And even though it grew off a little bit on me, I still consider it to be a pretty good record. It's still one of the most underrated records he has in his discography. And some songs still kind of like sound pretty great even till today's standards. And comparing that to this, which I know isn't a fair comparison because this is a first volume, but just how it's divided is kind of stupid in itself. You could see the lack of difference in care. I do think that Kanye with the track "Burn," he tries to be in his bag, give us these cool, old school boom bap, college dropout type Kanye bars and Kanye flow, which does work for the track. But what makes this track like just not stand out, or what it could have made it to stand out even more, is a longer runtime. Why are you giving one of the best tracks in here a minute and 51 seconds? You know damn well it's not enough time to make this record make this track stand out as much as it should stand out. And also the beat is magnificent. You can hear him back in his chopping bag just with these amazing sample chop and these boom bap drums that are insanely hard. I also have to and also speaking about boom bap Kanye whatever, the final track King, which I know I'm already skipping to the final, but there isn't really like there's not really like a sequencing in this record. You can listen to any song you want and shuffle. You can listen to this record and shuffle, and you don't really lose anything because there's not really like a transition. So song to song here, it's not really that much of a cohesive record, and there's not really a concept attached to it. So just like kind of view it as a mixtape, if anything. I think the final track King is such a waste of a good beat. The beat just was a great thing to listen to. It was interesting and intricate, but just what he says on this song crushes me, because that hook and refrain of him saying, "Hey, you guys thought you could cancel me, even despite me being labeled as anti-Semitic and all these comments that I'm making, I'm not cancelable. Look at me, guys. I'm so cool with this." It kind of breaks my heart, because Kanye wasn't always known for being this immature. I mean, yes, he had his immature moments, but just like openly saying, "Hey, this is me. I'm an anti-Semite or whatever. You guys are crying like a bunch of crybabies or whatever. Look at me. I beat cancel culture." It's just such an outdated, stupid argument. It really is. And again, for someone as Kanye West, which is a genius, and it's one of the most influential artists in our generation of all time, really. It just breaks my heart. Honestly, it breaks my heart. It just shows that his apology was just one of the most ungenuine things, just ever. Honestly, it just destroys any credit that apology he had before. But yeah, anyway, regarding that thing, I also want to kind of mention too that there are some like anti-Semitic bars. Obviously, in the Vultures track, which he does say that I just fucked a Jewish bitch, how can it be anti-Semitic? Which is a very cringy bar. It's an eye roll. It's not one of those fun, corny Kanye bars. It's just honestly disgusting, especially with all the controversy surrounding him and just the people he affected with this thing. In terms of like production wise, I do think that there is some great production sprinkled in here, even though the mixing is pretty ass. There's a reason why it took this long for it to be uploaded on Spotify and why it got took out on iTunes and then back in and back out, because there are some segments in here where the mixing just ducks in volume or the vocals are way too high and it's just there's so many things going on at the same time. But yeah, I do think there's some great production sprinkled here. I do think that Stars and Key to My Life are very layered, very intricate, and I also think that India and Keys to My Life just brought out like her entire soul. She sang just straight from her heart. It's powerful, it's potent. It's actually like a lovey-dovey song in a way. It's one of those moments. It's one of the few moments where I say, hey, maybe Kanye is actually kind of talking a bit more sincere in this track. He's kind of like removing these corny lines for a second and actually trying to speak into a more mature version of himself, which is kind of rare to see in his record. I think the track Fuck Some with Travis Scott and Playboi Carti is a very interesting idea, but once again, it's ruined by a lackluster mix that just ducks in volume too much, and I think the vocals are just drowned out and doesn't give enough time for it to breathe. It doesn't give enough time for it to really develop itself as a song. Uh, I think I did mention in the song "Problematic" doesn't really go anywhere in terms of its song progression. I do feel that it stagnates as well as the previous songs, which Good Don't Die and Beg Forgiveness. And that's the thing. Just like looking at this track list here, I realized that there's so many points in this record where it's just like boring songs attached to it, or just like a bunch of misses. And even like the good songs that I feel that have a good idea, just like again, it's either the mixed or just like these corny ass vocal lines that are just they just ruin everything going around with it. I feel like the track Hood Rat, I believe it's Hood Rat or Paperwork with YG, was very solid. It was interesting, especially that beat switch where it's giving it time for YG. I feel that YG should have had a longer verse, and I feel like they should have given him more of a West Coast type vibe. They sort of did in a way, but just should have let it simmer up a bit. Let it simmer a bit. There's also a track in here that has this very 3-6 Mafia inspired beat. I think it was Fuck Some. Actually, now think about it. I'm pretty sure it was Fuck Some. But yeah, I do think the sample is good, but the mixing of that track just needs so much work built into it. But yeah, I'm gonna just stop kind of like talking track to track and really just give you all like an overall thing. I think this record just needed a better mixing. Really, it needed better mixing. It needed a bit more series of writing. I don't mind Kanye being a bit wacky here and there with his corny lines, but it's kind of hard to take it seriously, to take it like, hey, like I sincerely like this, when you realize that he's using this platform in a very negative and derogatory way, and just not taking account and just seeing yourself as like, hey, like I'm uncancelable, I'm a beast, I'm this and that. It's obviously just him kind of leaning down in this other side and just like hyping up this idea of just this like super. I'm sorry if I sound weird or Twitter like just saying this, but it's super like hyper masculine, dominant type. Like, oh, I can't be canceled. Look at me, I'm a warrior. Screw you, Twitter keyboard warriors, or this and that. And it's also ironic because this JPEG Mafia producing this album, which there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. Personally, you do whatever you want to do. I understand Peggy's side, which, hey, Kanye was his idol and his hero. But ironically enough, he did say that all my heroes are cornballs. There's also that. So he's at the same time indirectly throwing shade at Kanye. But it's ironic because he was always known as this person who just didn't take shit from anybody and was very like anti-Semite. Like he was like very anti like Nazis and stuff like that. But whatever. I guess that I don't know if I want to say it fell apart, but it kind of like contradicted itself. But again, I understand his point of view. But anyway, aside of the lyrical matter in here, again, mixing here is just way too lackluster. There's too much things just going on here in the mix. It's never cohesive. And I want to wrap this up by just saying, I don't know if I really have it in me to really care enough about another Kanye record, especially as it's divided into two more volumes. Like, is it gonna be 16 more tracks or longer in every single record? And if it is it gonna be as messy as this? Are we gonna have a lack of revision? Do we have to wait like a good couple of weeks or months for you to nail the mix down, Kanye? Like, you have Peggy. When Peggy went to that Twitter rant and he said that, hey, you got like 50 people trying to tweak the hi hats and stuff for the mix just to make mid, he wasn't lying. He really wasn't lying. And that's the irony behind it. Like, it boggles my mind that Kanye, being one of the richest people on the planet, technically, not just rappers or artists, one of the richest people ever, and has all the resources ever, pulls out a record as messy as this, and just he for some reason just cannot afford just like better production. I mean, he's a beneficent producer himself, but mixing is obviously not in his strong suit sometimes, and I can definitely tell. And he's kind of rushing these projects out. I think that maybe if he was gonna simplify Vultures to just like one project, like one good 20 track project, it might have been better. Because thinking about a trilogy when it comes out like this, it's not adding up at all. I don't know. This is what I think. Honestly, I think it's messy. It's inconsequential. It's definitely not better than Donda. I don't know where people are getting that. It's not your Donda at all. Just because it has some highlights doesn't mean it's ironically better than Donda. If you're asking for a score, I really don't have a score. Maybe I'm feeling maybe a six, perhaps something like that. Because like the more I think about this record, the more I feel it's a lost cause in a way, and I don't know. I think that I'm kind of like done with like I guess caring that much about Kanye records kind of like now, unless he pulls out a hail, a hallelujah, a hail mary, and he actually cares about mixing his projects and making a cohesive song that isn't like 30 billion songs in one, you know. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say. This kind of sounds like an endless rant, and I'm just getting tired of it. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Uh, Vultures, check it out if you want to. But yeah, anyway, stay safe from COVID and from anything out there. Obviously, just stay safe. There's also a flu season spreading around. I've seen campuses just a bunch of people coughing on top of each other. It's insane. But yeah, just apply hand sanitizer. Be sanitary. Be healthy, of course. And yeah, just see you guys next time. Peace out.